I tell you what, my dear friend, there's nothing like the feeling of a good hot steam bath after a busy day of shopping at high-end outlets. So, what do you think about my new private spa? Ain't it the bee's knees?
Oh, it's quite revivifying enough, gramercy to you, Grendel. But by my stars and garters, you have not lived until you try a natural hot spring. Have you been?
No, but I've heard.
I often visit there whilst globe-trotting. Oh, there are good ones in New Mexico, Indonesia, Australia, but the best ones are most definitely in China.
My word!
And, fancy this! China's most ostentatious natural hot spring is actually a hidden treasure. One awaiting the perfect soul. That would be moi. Just to reach out and collect it.
Do tell, Tobias, do tell.
Are you familiar with the works of Rumiko Takahashi? The literature of Ranma 1/2? Well, then sit back and enjoy this character profile. The Ranma 1/2 series centers around the misadventures of a teenage martial artist who is able to flip gender. That alone is enough to carry the series, but instead, we have an overwhelming number of characters with quirks and shortcomings up the yin-yang. We have male characters who wear women's clothes and fall in love with every girl they meet. We have visually impaired characters with enough tricks up their sleeves to give Inspector Gadget a run for his money. We have super hot teachers who are energy-draining succubi. We have characters with superhuman strength. We have stereotypes, we have lunatics, we have nimrods, we have speed freaks, and then we have characters with very low self-esteem. Such is the case with this lamentable soul. Allow me to introduce you to Yohyo Tsuruyassenen. He comes from a highly respected family who has invested millions in the finest hot springs the world has to offer. As sole heir to the family business and fortune, Yohyo has his own castle and his own private island in the shape of a crane. He holds extravagant parties and invites only girls with their hair in pigtails. But think he not some young version of Hugh Hefner, for his heart belongs to one. A long time ago, Yohyo was on a business trip to China to train for a hot spring excavation. Not a big deal for him, as he's quite the natural while holding a pickaxe.
Here, sirs, we come to famous training ground of Cursed Springs, Jusenkyo.
While on break, Yohyo was about to enjoy his full-course picnic lunch when that happened. All he saw was the red pigtail swaying back and forth as the girl of his dreams put a permanent dent in his skull and, darting out of his life, a permanent dent on his soul. Okay, seriously. I know this character had low self-esteem, but goddamn! He falls in love with a first girl who stomps on his head and steals all his food? How low can your standards get? Does he just love being dominated? Well, believe it or not, it gets worse. Desperate to find his lover who literally walked all over him, Yohyo gathered girls from far-off lands all over the globe. He would invite them all to take part in what he called the Bon Odori Dance Competition. I was thinking of attending that Bon Odori Dance Competition.
Oh yes?
I thought I would try my hand. A creature of my stature deserves to marry into an affluence affable to my own.
But Tobias, do you even swing that way?
Oh, Grendel, you're a real Georgia peach. He would strictly invite ladies who matched the description of his attacker, i.e., they had to have pigtails in their hair.
This reliable source says you require a pigtail to get in.
A conundrum easily rectified.
Beg pardon? Oh, jolly good.
This quaff will most certainly hornswoggle those Tsuruyassenens. Now don't let the name, the Bon Odori Dance Competition, fool you. Despite Yohyo's passion for karaoke, among other things, this contest doesn't involve actual dancing. Instead, in the style of Cinderella, He has the girls line up to take their turn stomping his head in to find the girl whose foot matched the print left in his head.
Well, here is a revolting new development.
New development? I have all bases covered! It's money in the bank, my dear friend!
The bachelor Yohyo Tsuruyassenen requires his mate to properly fit her foot into the indenture upon his cranium.
I know! What a freak!
But Tobias, you have no feet. Tut, gentle Tobias. Let us for now enjoy the steam.
Yohyo is a very strange case, as it's difficult to tell whether he actually enjoys pain or is simply immune to it. You'd think he would have died from getting struck in the head with a pickaxe, right? Nope. All he suffered was a minor headache. In fact, it seems to he that physical injuries are as casual as breathing. He could be bleeding a geyser before your very eyes, and that wouldn't stop him. He would still be all touchy-feely with the woman of his dreams, even as she beat him 100 kinds of non-stop senseless. But even if he were to find the girl of his dreams, or for that matter, any girl strange enough to put up with his bizarre fetishes and characteristics, Yohyo holds a deep, dark secret that he dare not reveal. For you see, behind the layers of extravagance, behind the fancy lifestyle, the Tsuruyassenen family business is in ruins. His island hasn't hot water since a giant boulder plugged up the spring. When the hot water stopped flowing, his family's source of income dried up too. They survived as long as they could on borrowed coin, plunging further and further into debt until finally, the electricity and water were cut. Yohyo and his butler Jeeves were reduced to living in a dank, rotted room with no furniture or electricity. Soon, he barely had his last legs to stand on. Unless Yohyo can remove the boulder, he will have no other choice but to sell his island. Alas, despite his skills with a pickaxe, Yohyo has been unable to break the seal and release the hot water again. Oh, if only there were someone strong enough to split this rock. The hot spring would gush forth, and Yohyo would be able to open his island as a resort. Tourists would come from miles around, and his financial problems would forever be solved. And finally, this poor guy, stepped on his entire life, would finally feel the thrill of victory, instead of the agony of losing.
I know we're both millionaires, but I would so love to own my own hot springs. You and I, we can be partners. We'll wait for the springs to fall to new ruin, and then we'll sweep in and purchase them at a fine price.
No, Tobias, I have consulted the numbers and found the hot springs to be a dying industry. They are a money pit, and I would humbly suggest we not to venture into such rough waters.
But I want...
Tobias, do you trust me?
Why, yes, Grendel, you are a true friend and confidant.
And my time with you is precious, but I woefully have to ask you to pretend this conversation never occurred. It'll do us both a world of good.
Oh, very well, Grendel. You are more knowledgeable about this sort of rigmarole. Pity. Shall we away then?
I'll be right behind you. Ethan, it's Grendel. I need you to secure the boulder outside the Tsuruyassenen estate. Get some armed guards there. Build a steel wall around it. Hell, drop another boulder over there. Do whatever you have to do to ensure nobody is to break that boulder. You got it? I want those hot springs.
This has been a Ranma 1/2 Character Profile. This profile was brought to you in part by JW Studios and by Shay.